Welcome, everyone. We're delighted to have you join us for our Grow Your Group webinar tonight. We had quite a few of you have called in because you are planning a trip already this year and are hoping to increase your group size, and we're hoping to help you. We realize that many of you have different approaches to growing your group, and that all of you come from different situations and have different approaches. So whether this is your first attempt or you've traveled with ACIS many times before, we're hoping that tonight we can share some new ways to help you increase your group size and maybe take a new approach to some things you've already been doing to help grow your group. You know, walking away tonight with one new idea or doing one thing a different way could be the difference between having a trip and not having a trip, and we understand that, and we want you to have a trip. So tonight, I am Liz Reese. I am the director of the Academic Travel Advisor Network, which is a network of local representatives all across the U.S. That work locally with teachers just like you to mentor them and support them through the planning process. And with me are my colleagues Lynn and Ariana, and I'm going to let them say a little bit about themselves. Lynn, why don't you go first?
Hello, I'm Lynn Freeman. I'm the regional director for ACIS in the West Coast. I'm based in Sacramento, California. I've been with ACIS for 23 years and worked with teachers, just like all of you, in the 13 Western United States.
I am Ariana Breckner. I'm one of the international program consultants here at ACIS. I work with a lot of teachers in the northeast region of the country, and for the past years have been specifically working with a lot of teachers who are just establishing their programs.
Excellent. We have a great team, and we have a lot of wonderful stuff to cover with you. First, I want to talk a little bit about how these webinars work. You are able to ask questions. If you look in your panel, there's a questions section, and we have our colleague Heidi Pettit on the line ready to answer any questions you have throughout the presentation. So if something pops in your head and you want to know the answer, feel free to type your question in and Heidi will respond to you. If there's a question that seems like it would be great to share with the rest of the group, we may save it for the end and we'll walk through that answer at that point. The webinar should last about 1 hour. We usually try to keep it to an hour or less. We understand that your time is precious, so we want to make sure we cover everything concisely. That said, we also are recording this. So don't feel like you have to take detailed notes of every single thing we cover. We will make this available to you via email tomorrow as well as on our YouTube channel. All right, so we're going to start off with a little survey so we can find out what you've done so far. So if you would just take a few minutes, I won't give you too much time because we don't want to dwell on this, but we want to see what you've done so far and see if make sure we're going to cover all the things that you're interested in. All right, wow, okay, so the numbers are ticking up. We're looking at 72% of you have had at least one meeting. Oh, sorry, I'm pausing for a second. We can share the results with you. There we go. All right, look at that. So interestingly enough, we're going to talk about all of this. But it's really interesting that only 9% have done the student ambassador, and that's something we're really going to spend some time on tonight, as well as social media, which I know for quite a few of you is probably new because it's changing every day and it's new to everyone. So we're going to talk about that. But it's wonderful to see how many of you have had a meeting and had more than one meeting and are using our trip site. So it's great to see that all those meetings have happened out there. We want to make sure we are giving you the best guidelines to hosting a meeting. And last spring I believe it was, we hosted a How to Host a Superior Recruitment Meeting webinar with our ATA Nikki Miller. Nikki has been traveling with ACIS for over 20 years. She led both school-sponsored trips and non-school sponsored trips. So she really had insight into what it's like to get a travel program started and how to build on your success. So what we're going to do is walk through some of the key points from that webinar, just to give you an overview. But I highly suggest if you have 30 minutes to spend to listen to that webinar. The link is right here It's on our YouTube channel, and it's time well spent because we cover so much in that webinar, and we're not going to be able to cover every detail of this, how to host a superior meeting tonight, but we are going to cover some of the basics just to make sure everyone has that checklist of all the things you should be doing. While I'm talking about Nikki, I just wanted to mention again the local network of academic travel advisors that we have. You know, it is a wonderful thing to have someone come to your school, meet with you, support you through the process. And if you're thinking to yourself right now, oh yeah, I would love to have that, you may have someone in your area who does that for ACIS. And if that's the case, you know, they would love to come meet with you. It's what they love to do. And people like all of our staff in the office as well, they want to come and help you if you need help. All you have to do is ask. So you can check our website under local representatives. You can see if there's one in your area. And of course, reach out to your own program consultant and ask if they'd be willing to come help you or if they can connect you with your local representative. All right, I'm going to turn this over right now to Ariana, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about generating excitement.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. You know, the first thing that I think is so important to highlight is everything about getting things started is really about starting a buzz within your school. If there's a buzz about an upcoming trip, then you're going to have excitement around it. And how do you get that buzz started? There's so many different ways of doing it, but I think there are non-traditional ways that we've seen work really successfully. Classroom settings where you can actually have lesson plans designed about your trip. Showing DVDs. I know I had a teacher who is going to the Galapagos and plays videos about the Galapagos every day so that students can get excited about the destinations that they're visiting. And using PowerPoints. They've got the ACIS PowerPoint that you can use as well. But I think that those are all things that will help you with just generating visual excitement for the students as they start to hear about the opportunity that you're hopeful to pursue. I know that hosting a formal meeting with parents is really important, but sometimes you just kind of have to bring it back to the students and host an informal meeting with them. Have them get excited and giddy with one another learning about the opportunity so that you can then build off of that excitement and encourage them to bring their parents as well. I know that this is not as common, but I think something to always consider is speak to the PTA. We always, and we'll talk a lot about this a little bit later on, student support is so tremendous and student excitement is important, but parent excitement is also equally as important too. So reaching out to your PTA and seeing if they've got worthy scholarships or anything that they can do to help contribute to the excitement, I think will only add to this buzz that we're talking about all the time. I know that we are recruiting students from our classrooms, but getting your colleagues to help too is a really great way of doing it. You want everybody in the school to know about the opportunity. And asking your colleagues to help will only, I think, add to the excitement and perhaps even get them excited to come and join you if enough students end up adding on to the trip. And a couple other things that we've also seen really work are starting clubs, starting the travel club or the French club, and having a way where students can come and meet and talk about travel pretty consistently without feeling as though they have to commit to an opportunity is a great way, again, to just keep people motivated about learning more about travel.
Yeah, we've seen that teachers who are truly successful with ACIS have their tours embedded into their curriculum. You know, I think one of the things that can be challenging is the first time you're doing this is, oh my gosh, I have to get this trip off the ground. But if you think about it more like building a travel program, that this isn't just, you're not just investing in this one trip. It's not just about this one trip. It's about building a travel program at your school that will continue and that will grow. Having that mentality, I think, really helps. And I know so many of you do that already.
Yeah, and I really have to agree. I think we all know that when we get into a room and we get to talk about travel, we're going to excite people about it, but it's figuring out how to get them to show up that is so key. So that buzz, again, is so important. And other things that I think we've seen work really successfully, and we're going to delve into it a little bit more later on, but using social media. Facebook is such a powerful tool, as is Instagram and many other things there. I know hashtagging is what the kids are talking about these days, and there are so many references to the hashtag for your trip. So create your own hashtag. It's a great way to, again, build that buzz. And I know we're talking about social media, but I don't think it's ever a bad idea to stick to the traditional stuff too. hanging posters, sending letters home. Those are always really great ways to just, again, build that buzz, all that buzz.
So I just wanted to also mention that we're talking about embedding it into your curriculum and making it part of the school, but if you're running a non-school sponsored trip, that's not going to be possible. You, of course, can embed excitement about destinations, especially as a language teacher or a history teacher or an art teacher, or actually any teacher can do it, but I really do, I understand that you face different challenges if you're not allowed to have a school-sponsored trip. And that's really where social media can play a big role, because putting some ownership on the students and putting it out there, creating a Facebook page, really takes it off the campus and puts it online. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I did just want to mention that right now.
Yeah,
all right, so now...
Oh, sorry, Liz. I just wanted to jump in there about getting people to come to the meetings. It's all about getting people to come to your first recruitment meeting. So as you're advertising and sending these letters out to parents, don't forget to ask for RSVPs, to ask who is coming to your meeting so you have an idea of how many people, how many chairs you need to set up. And it's also key to know if they're not coming, you may need to reschedule the meeting. So ask for RSVPs so you know you're going to have a good turnout at your meeting. And then when you do have the meeting, don't forget to have that sign-in sheet so you can sign up, have them register who's there, and ask for their email so you can follow up with them after the meeting.
Yeah, that's true. Very good, Lynn. Most of you on this call have had a meeting or two already, and you probably asked for RSVPs and maybe didn't get as many as you were hoping for, or people just didn't show. But, you know, lack of attendance can be for many different reasons. It can be because of a sporting event. It may not necessarily reflect lack of interest. So having another meeting is a great way to get that face time with them, and choosing a night that's easy for parents and students to attend, that there's no sporting event, and a time that will work well for people. And we have found generally that 7 p.m. Is a good time because it gives students time to come home, do their homework. Parents can get home from work in time. It seems to be the most common time for a meeting.
And just to chime in, actually, Liz, I've heard of teachers having AM meetings and doing meetings at 7 a.m. So having one meeting at 7 p.m. and then the next morning hosting another meeting for any students that did have conflicts. And for parents, too, and that's worked really successfully for them.
Yeah, that's a great idea and gives people an option. Another thing that we have to mention is choosing a good location. So if your trip is school-sponsored, you can use your classroom. You could probably use the school library. If your school is not school-sponsored, a lot of people use the public library, which I think is a great and accessible spot, and it's usually open, which is nice. We hear quite a bit, well, stories here and there of teachers who host a meeting and the school doors are locked, or people can't get in. So you just want to make sure that you think about these little things as you're getting your meeting ready.
Yeah, I actually have had teachers host their second meetings in computer labs so that they can sit with the students and register anybody who's interested. So many different places to actually think about hosting things.
Yeah. And choose a date that gives you enough time to successfully publicize the meeting. Give yourself at least 2 weeks. Once you have, you know, those 30-plus RSVPs, you'll be ready to prepare for that meeting. And 2 weeks is definitely plenty of time to collect all that information and get yourself ready. So ACIS does a lot to support you and help you get ready for the meeting, but I feel like it's really important for you to be prepared yourself. You know, being prepared really pays off, and the more confidence you have in yourself, the more confidence the parents are going to have in you. We provide our PowerPoint. We want to make sure you get there early and that you rehearse the PowerPoint. I feel like I definitely know the ATAs try to do this with anyone they work with and do a run-through, but doing a run-through with your program consultant or your local rep, your academic travel advisor, it's well worth it because knowing what you're presenting makes the presentation so much better and really makes you seem like you know what you're talking about. It also gives you the opportunity to really express how you feel about this trip and your passion. Oh, Sorry, I was going to say, also make sure you have a sign-in sheet at the meeting to get those names and email addresses of the parents and the students who join you.
Yeah, and at the meeting, too, it's really important for you to share your own experience and your personal motivation for doing the trip. Again, if you're using our PowerPoint presentation, we have a couple of slides set aside just for that. So your story doesn't have to be long. You know, maybe 5 minutes or so to show your passion for the trip. It helps the parents feel confidence in you as a group leader as well. And you could tell a story or two, maybe if you traveled when you were younger and how that made an impact on you and really opened up your eyes to different experiences. You might explain how you came to be the teacher that you are today, why you're teaching the subject that you are. Lots of times your past experience in school or from a past educator had an impact on you, and you can share that with the parents. You could explain how or why a teacher influenced you in the past. That will put you in the light that now you are the influencer with the parents' children, and that you are going to impart some of this wisdom that you gained with them. You could explain a little bit about what an impact this trip is going to have on their students, on their children. That's one thing that parents really want to hear. What is their child going to get out of it? Share what you know, the students, as their teacher, what you know they will gain from traveling on this trip. It may be your goal is to get them in their target language maybe 8 hours a day. They're going to be more confident in using their foreign language. They'll have better noun-verb agreement. They'll have correct use of the pronouns, etc. And another really important detail about the trip is this is a great run-up for college. They're out on their own. This may be their first opportunity in sharing a room with roommates. They're going to be moving out and living in apartments and dormitories. This is a great experience for them to have roommates, to wake themselves up on a daily basis. They're sharing a bathroom maybe with 2 or 3 other people for the very first time and getting themselves ready to meet the public for maybe the first time all on their own.
I just want to chime in, Lynn. I think it's really important about sharing personal stories. I think that just does such a wonderful, or it adds such a wonderful element to the meetings. Having past students who've traveled, having a principal come, or even a parent who's seen their child change because they went on an educational trip, I think is such a way that can add authenticity to the reason why you're doing and hosting this experience for them. So personal stories are great.
And pictures, too. You can, sorry, just to add in here, you can make that PowerPoint presentation your own by adding videos and pictures from past students who've traveled or your own travel pictures, just to show how passionate you are about travel.
Another thing to keep in mind when you're having your meeting is to set a clear registration deadline for your parents and the students. With everything online, it's not like you're giving them a deadline to hand in homework to you 2 days later. So you have to be really, really clear about the action you want them to take and by what date. So at the night of your meeting, make sure that you create some urgency around that registration deadline. On the flyers that we send you to advertise the trip, you may have a November 1st deadline or even a December 1st deadline. And that price is certainly valid through there. But you can certainly have a deadline that is a week or maybe 10 days past your meeting date to create some urgency. You can explain that you want to get an idea of how many are interested. The earlier you plan, the better prepared the group will be, and it also gives you time to have another meeting to help people meet that deadline if you want. So 1 week or 10 days past your meeting date is great. Don't let too much time between the meeting and the registration deadline go by, because people are just going to forget. They're going to get busy with life, and this is going to be put on the back burner, and you want to keep it foremost in their minds.
Yeah, that's totally true. Having a registration deadline is so important. You know, and just as important is the follow-up after a meeting. Making sure you stay connected with the students and the parents is really important.
Yeah, here we're talking about all this time run up to the meeting, but you're right. Just a little bit of follow-up the next day or two after the meeting is really going to pay off big time. The day after the meeting, you might think about talking about the meeting the next day in class or to students that you know were interested in the trip, because for every 5 parents that come to a meeting, there's probably 3 or 5 parents that couldn't come because they had conflicts or they were busy. So always have extra materials on hand the next day to give to students who couldn't make it. Also be ready to send out a follow-up email the day after the meeting. You want to thank parents individually for coming, offer to answer any follow-up questions to them. You want to make yourself available to them should they have a question after the meeting. And in that follow-up email, I really encourage you to restate your benefit for what you know these students are going to get out of that travel program, because parents love to see, by putting this extra bit of work and money in on their students' future, what they're going to get out of it. And you might think about wrapping up your follow-up email with a really encouraging statement, like you hope to see them on the trip roster by the deadline that you gave them at the meeting, so that you can start planning a fantastic travel experience together.
Yeah, I agree, Lynn. And I think as I'm listening to you walk through all this stuff, I'm thinking of people on the line are probably thinking, oh, I did that, and people still didn't sign up. Or maybe they did some of these things. And I think at this point, if you've had a meeting or maybe had 2 meetings, it might be worth it to reach out to the people who attended, if you have their contact information, and ask them why they didn't sign up or what their reason was, because that kind of information maybe can help you for the future. And I think it would be worthwhile to follow up with them again and say, is there anything that was missing or anything else you need to know? Just reaching out one more time, it wouldn't bother them, I'm sure, and it would probably be really useful information for you moving forward with your trip plans. So hopefully, I think just about everyone who's here tonight has 1 or 2 students registered. And you really want to build off that excitement. Those 2 kids, they really want to go. They signed up. And I think you all know that when a few kids sign up, that those are the kids who really do want to go. And it's important to try to leverage their interest and get them engaged and encourage them to help make the trip happen.
Yeah, I absolutely couldn't agree more. I think that 2 students is the start of something, and they can ultimately be the ones to help you in continuing to inspire their peers about why a trip like this can be so impactful. Maybe they're just scared and don't know if there are others who are excited about the opportunity. So I actually want to talk a little bit about the Student Ambassador Program, because the Student Ambassador Program has been something that I've seen work very successfully for teachers that have utilized it. And I know in our survey at the beginning, we looked to see how many people actually have used the Student Ambassador Program, and not many are using it yet. So this could be a way to really help you expand your group in these next couple of months. The Student Ambassador Program is something that we developed a couple years ago, based actually on a reflection of what we heard back from our teachers. There were several successful teachers out there who were enlisting students to help them with recruitment. And so we thought, what a fabulous idea. The truth is, some of these students have amazing ideas. Their creativity is almost limitless. They know where the social media and where everything is these days, so why not call on them? And I always tell people, you're going to have a captain of a football team, you're going to have the captain of the debate team. Student ambassador is kind of like the captain of the travel team. And you want someone who can really help you with being a leader and motivating their peers, just like a captain of any other organization would. So about what I've seen student ambassadors do is kind of incredible. I've seen students make videos. One of my favorite student ambassadors, who was helping with a trip to China, she actually made Chinese invitations that she sent out to every student, which was amazing and generated a lot of buzz. And then she even made the classroom look like China, which was excellent. Everybody walked in and they just felt like what an exciting experience this could be. And a testament to her, the group was a great size. They can also make Facebook pages. I mean, like I said, the social media abilities are pretty limitless, and they know where all the buzz is. And I think that's the great thing about the Student Ambassador Program for teachers who are wondering, why would I ask a teacher to do all of this, or excuse me, a student to do all of this? There's something in it for them. We actually give the students a scholarship of $100 for helping you with doing that. And we also have a contest. So the student ambassador that helps the most will actually win a free trip, which I think is pretty exciting motivation for a student to help you with planning a trip, and definitely something that can be used. But the student ambassadors have done amazing things, and as I said, I think that the fact that there are no limits on what we suggest that they do is a great way to have them come up with creative ways of adding people to your group, ways that we may not even know of yet. So another thing that would be good to look at actually is we have a blog post about student ambassadors and a student ambassador who's done things really successfully in the past. So I would encourage finding this blog post online and also sending it to students you think may be interested in it so it can inspire them to think about ways in which they can help you.
Yeah, I just want to add in here quickly that it's really important to pick someone who's super excited about the trip and well-respected and well-connected within your community, within the school, so that it's someone who will have fun doing this and someone you'll have fun, helping and supporting through this process. I know, there's people out there who maybe chose someone to be the student ambassador, thought they would be great, and then it didn't work out, right? So what do you do in that situation? You pick a new student ambassador. It's that easy. You don't have to, be beholden to that person. If they didn't work out, you just choose someone else. And you know what? If you have 2 student ambassadors, that's perfectly fine. It's not the end of the world. I mean, we really ideally want 1 so that you have sort of 1 key person. But if you need to have 2, have 2. So what we know is that this model works. We've had teachers doing this forever. I know there's a teacher in New York State who he's been doing this for years. And he basically, at one point, I remember him telling me that he really doesn't have to do a lot of work. He just has this student do it. And the student always does everything. And he rewards the student. He was doing it himself at that point, rewarding the student for making the Facebook page and connecting the kids and generating the buzz. But now that we have this sort of set-up program, we're really taking that that ownership of it and making it accessible to everyone. It's a great way to keep the kids engaged and to get the students involved and to get that one student to really make waves and get the word out about the trip.
Yeah, having a student ambassador is a great way to help generate excitement, and there's a lot of things that you can do yourself. We have a lot of tools that we've built, and we've tried to put them all in one place for you to find. So when you go to your trip site and go to My Account, look for that Planning and Recruiting button. There you see it in the gold with the big red arrow. There's lots of information in there, so I just encourage you to click on that and just, play with it someday, maybe, when you have 15 minutes and you just want to play around on the computer. We have some basic tools within there. We'll walk you through a few of them. As you can see, there's lots of stuff. There's the account overview, the group leader checklist. That's one of the best little pieces of material we developed, and now put it in this little cache of information for you. This walks you through the entire planning process from conception to pre-departure meetings to right before you go. So we give you timelines. If you're planning your trip even maybe 6 to 8 months before departure, some of you may plan, you may have started last spring and been in the planning process for 18 months or so. We have suggestions and guidelines on that checklist to help you walk through it. So it's a great tool to read. You might, we said in the beginning of this broadcast that if you just come away with 1 or 2 new ideas to try on your next meeting, it's really going to pay off in the end. And then we have the My Account overview, and this is your guide of My Account, so that will walk you through and show you what all you can access online. And then on your trip site, there's also a Tell Me More button, and you should encourage all of your participants to click and use that so that you can get more information out of them. Another great communication tool that we have in there is the postcard. We've been talking a lot about follow-up and generating interest. So you can click on this and send a postcard to anyone that you like. You could send it to everyone who came to you could send it to the parents who came to your meeting. You could send a different postcard with a different message to students who came to the meeting. Kids love getting these electronic emails that are addressed just to them. This would be a fun way to engage the students and the parents who have expressed some interest but they haven't signed up yet. So if you have already had a meeting, hey, follow up with them again. Try sending them one of these postcards and see if that might be the little carrot that helps you get a response from them.
And just to add, Lynn, as well, we actually now have been creating Postwires for a lot of our teachers, and hopefully you all have a Postwire where you retrieve your PowerPoint the first time. But we actually have teachers who successfully send out their Postwire pages with PowerPoint so that the students can go through the PowerPoint again and watch the videos and even read up on some other content that we've included on it. So that's another powerful tool for follow-up as well.
Yeah, the Postwire link is a great idea, and it's wonderful because that your PowerPoint is saved on there, and if a parent maybe missed a meeting or wants to just review, I don't know, a slide on insurance or a little bit more of the destination, specific to the itinerary, they could visit it there. And the teachers who've done that have had incredible success. And I know a lot of you use e-boards now, and you can just put a link right on your e-board and share that with your students. It's a great, great tool. So for those of you who don't know what Postwire is, it's a file sharing site. So we use Postwire with our group leaders, and what we do is we create a page just for you. It has your PowerPoint, some specific destination information, support materials for you as the group leader, registration booklets, all sorts of downloadable information that you can find on our website too, but this is just a link specifically for you. And we can add things just for your destination or things just for your situation right to that. And so it's a link that you have access to, that your program consultant has access to, and that you can then share with others. One really cool thing about Postwire is that if you were to do something like this and send it out to your students, we would be able to see how many people looked at your page. So doesn't get down very specific as to who looked at it, but we would be able to see that 25 people looked at your Postwire page today. So we would be able to sort of tell you that, you know what, that worked. It was a successful venture to send that out. A lot of people opened it. Yes, you can share that link with anyone. Sorry, someone just asked the question, can I share my Postwire link with anyone, even students who have not signed up? And yes, that Postwire link, once you are within your Postwire page, you can actually click on share, and one of the options is to copy a link. And you can just copy that link into an email or into an e-board. If you need more information, because we're not going to spend too much more time on Postwire right now, talk to your program consultant tomorrow. They are all ready and waiting to support you after this webinar, because I think they know that they're hoping to do everything they can to help you make your trip happen. So talk to your program consultant about Postwire. All right, so we're going to move into social media a little bit right now, which I think is a hot topic, and a lot of people should be using it and maybe want to use it more but really aren't sure where to start.
Yeah, I think actually a couple of tools that have been really helpful is using Facebook. And you can see on the trip site there's a very easy way to share Facebook and even create a page that way. I know I alluded to it a little earlier on, but even having your student ambassador make a Facebook page I think is a great way to continue to have a place where they can share information. Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, I know that they're not as commonly used as Facebook, but they certainly are becoming very commonly used. And I hate to say it, but I think pictures are more powerful than words sometimes. I like looking at places that I could go and visit and see. And so having things on Instagram and creating your own hashtags, I think are a great way to visually excite students about what it is that they could go out and do. And again, if this is kind of unknown to you right now, that's okay. Empower the student ambassador to help you with that because they really know how to use it. It's where they are now. The kids are on the web, and that's where they want to find out about things.
Exactly. It's all about meeting students where they are. And one of the fun things that we've done and we've seen group leaders do is have a contest, a hashtag contest based on your destination or maybe specific to your school or who's most excited about France contest on Instagram, and they can use a hashtag to do that. If that sounds like, well, that sounds like a good idea, but how do I do that? We have created a Sharing Your Travel on Social Media guidebook just for all of our group leaders, and it's really wonderful. This was created by our social media specialists with all of you in mind, knowing that for some of you, you've heard of all these things, but you don't know where to begin. This really just walks you through the very basics of how to set up your accounts, and then how to use it to promote your trip. We also have our blog, which our blog is a wonderful resource, not just for sharing excitement about the trip, but for you as a group leader. It's often very specific to different ways to generate excitement about your trip, how to use Instagram, different people to follow on Twitter and Instagram. So we use it to support you as group leaders. We use it to share fun destination information. And of course, you can share that with your students and link them to the blog. If you aren't subscribed to our blog, please do so. It is, we all who, obviously we work here, we love it. We read it, and it's wonderful to get it and share with our teachers these resources. And it's just another way to stay connected with ACIS. To get people excited about travel. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what is stopping students from signing up. We know, you know, and you're probably facing at least one of these challenges. The top three we hear the most are price, that students are too busy or uninterested, and that parents don't see the value. So we're going to dive into price first because that's generally the biggest obstacle that people face. And we really want to make sure we're doing everything we can to support you when you come up against people who say, I can't afford to go.
Yeah, so what we want to do is give you some ammo and some examples that you can use in your meetings or just talking with parents or those that are interested about the trip to explain what all you're really getting for the value in a trip like this, because ACIS trips tend to have everything included in them, so it's a really comprehensive price. So they're not going to have to come up with a lot of spending money out of pocket because we include everything, the round-trip air, all of the hotels, breakfast and dinner every day, all the touring and sightseeing. I know I had a call the other day from a parent about a one-week trip to Paris, and she was asking about enrolling and just kind of made the offhanded comment that she thought, about $2,700 seemed a little bit expensive for a trip like that. So as we chatted and we talked about, price of airfare if you were flying to Europe, if you were booking 5 or 6 hotel nights, for her I used the example of San Francisco since she was from California. When you start thinking about a centrally located hotel in Union Square or near the Eiffel Tower, what does that cost? Have you priced the a buffet breakfast in Europe lately? That's about $20 or $25, and that's included on all of our programs. Very hearty breakfast every day. We have sit-down 3-course meals every day for the participants. So all of that adds up, and it helps the parents to see the value in what they're getting in the trip. I know it's on the itinerary. They can certainly read it, but that's part of your job as being the group leader, is to really enforce the value of what they're getting. Those are things that happen automatically. It's not anything you orchestrate or that you have to take your time and focus off the trip to make happen. It's built in the program, which allows you more time with the students on the trip. Another thing you can help them break down and understand and kind of make that price more palatable is our auto pay plan. They can break down the total price of the trip into monthly or bi-monthly payments that's automatically deducted out of their checking account. So when they see it on a monthly basis, that number looks a lot smaller. And then this little piece of information is a great plan that came to us from a teacher in Pennsylvania. So it's an example that you could use, kind of set up a workflow potential financial plan for a student so that they can see if they work over the summer a few hours a week based on an average per hour amount, what they could earn, and then apply that toward their trip. And then if they could work a little bit during the fall, during school, earn a little bit more money to go through the trip. So again, it's breaking down that big number into smaller chunks so they could see how they can chip away at it and make the trip, a lot more doable. So I really encourage you to look at this, spend some time with it, maybe create something like that in your area. You might even list some sample job sites where they could work or different employment areas that your students would use, and help them fit the timeline for your trip. It'll pay off.
Yeah, I agree. It really works to break it down, and that is exactly why the auto pay works. And I think that sometimes they just need a plan and a vision to be able to see, if you put it in writing for them and showed them, that it may make them say, yeah, you know what, maybe I can do this. And it just makes it seem more doable. Additionally, we do a lot of fundraising, or we have a lot of fundraising opportunities. And I want to talk to you first about a company that we partnered with last year. They are called Project Travel. And they are a wonderful crowdfunding website, but they are specifically dedicated to educational travel. So they really understand the value of educational travel and the importance of each student's story. So what they do, actually, their website, if a student was interested, or a group was interested, they would go to Project Travel, set up a page, tell their story, and then share it within their community. And crowdfunding works similar to if you were running a road race and you needed to raise some money for part of it, and you would reach out to your friends and family. You would write your story of why you're doing it, and then share it with friends and family. And right now, I know some of you are probably thinking, my students don't have the summer to work or a ton of time before our trip goes or before our final payment deadline. But Christmas is coming. The holidays are coming. There's definitely an opportunity for students to ask for money toward their trip or toward their spending money. They can also, maybe ask for money now to pay for the trip and then work to earn their spending money for the rest, while they're overseas. So there's definitely time before the trip itself to get some money raised.
Yeah, Liz, I always say to students, when there's a will, there's a way, and I think what's amazing about this Project Travel tool is all they need is to send it out. They can send it out to as many people as they want, and if they want to do it, and if there's that will, they can send it out to everyone under the sun using their email and hopefully get substantial contributions to their trip. So I've actually heard of a couple other fundraising ideas that I think have worked really successfully. I have some personal stories too, because I similarly did something in high school, but I've heard of teachers doing poinsettia sales and approaching greenhouses and saying, we will go out to all of the office buildings and in the area and sell poinsettias on your behalf, and the students then get a portion of the sale, which is incredible. When I was in high school and we did it, we had a babysitters club, and we also had a snow removal club. So we actually, during the wintertime, with all of us up in the north here that have to deal with the terrors of the winter, having students go out and actually do the snow removal worked really well. And sometimes they were giving us even larger amounts than we asked for just because they knew that we were doing this so that we could go on our trip. So I also think this is another moment where I would say empower the students. You know, fundraising I know sometimes sounds very daunting, but if there are students who are looking for more leadership opportunities, ask one of them to be the fundraising chair. Ask one of them to be the treasurer. We did that, and it worked really well. And that way the teacher didn't have to be involved and even worried about getting things started, and the creativity came from us. So I think empowering the students is also a really great way to help them raise money for themselves.
Yeah, it is a great way for them to build some leadership skills. They can use that on their college essay. It's really part of the confidence and growth builders that they get out of a trip like this. And students are busy, so we'd like to give you, you know, some ideas and stories about maybe motivating or hooking students in to why they need to do this, or to help the parents understand why opportunities like this are so valuable to their children, because students do want to be motivated. They want to be inspired to try something new and to improve themselves as they're out there trying to find their path in life. I mean, I've had so many teachers over the years tell me that they decided to become a teacher because of the influence of a past educator. And oftentimes that was a language teacher that they traveled with while they were in high school. And that's just a tremendous impact to have on a student. So please keep that in mind as you're embarking on this little journey with us. Just last week I met with a teacher in Seattle. She's been teaching for less than 5 years. She's a Spanish teacher. And as a high school student in Rhode Island, she traveled on an ACIS trip to Costa Rica. And now, you know, early in her teaching career, she's planning on taking her first group to Costa Rica as a result of an experience that she had in high school from a teacher just like you that took the time to offer a trip to their students. I had another teacher in Irvine here in Southern California last spring that told me about an email that she received from a past student when he was in Peru traveling around, was at Machu Picchu. He told her in this email that she shared with me, it's really very, very cute. He told her it was because of Señora's influence in her Spanish class that gave him the interest, first of all, and the confidence to go to Peru as a college student. Then he went on to tell her about some of the things that he liked and didn't like about Peru, and a lot of it had to do with food and the interaction with people, which I thought was really cool. But I had a German teacher here in the Sacramento area tell me that she has several former students that she's taught in school that are doing and have done a semester or a year abroad in college. Most of them are international relation majors at UC Davis, and you know, it's all because of their high school travel experience with her. And she uses those stories at her recruitment meetings with the parents. I have one last story. I won't bore you with any more of these, but this is one of my favorites. A French teacher here in Northern California said that her own 2 children are the people that they are today because of their travels with her on her ACIS trips. That teacher did her first trip with us in 2001. She's done 12 trips since that time. Both of her daughters did a year abroad in college. One is a French major, and she's now engaged to a Dutch guy, and they'll be living in Holland. So French teacher mom is thrilled that she's going to have a Dutch son-in-law and get to go abroad and visit. And, you know, she just said that all started with ACIS. So it really is true. Travel does change lives.
Yeah, and I think that one of the big things is to talk about this stuff at the meeting and get the parents aware of the value. You know, the students are busy, and there's so many different things to choose from to spend your precious money on, and where you're going to send your child and what they're going to do. So sharing that value with them, and we do have a lot of materials that support that. One of them is called Travel's Impact, and that's on Postwire too, and we can share that with everybody. It's a great just one-pager of statistics of how travel changes lives, and how much more likely your student is to study abroad, and how much more likely you are to continue to study a foreign language in college. It's very powerful, and I think that sometimes people do need to see it in writing, along with hearing those inspiring stories of people from your community who have changed and experienced things from these trips.
And some more information that may help you be even more successful in getting students to travel is just maybe proactively putting some of those parents' fears aside. You know, all they want to know is that their child is going to be looked after and chaperoned appropriately while they are, you know, thousands of miles away from them. So you can, you know, go forward with confidence and share with them that ACIS has been taking students and teachers abroad for 35 years. We have a tremendous network of people here in the U.S. and especially overseas where you're going to be on your trip. We have full-time offices in London, Paris, Madrid, Rome, Costa Rica. Almost any place you travel, we have people there on the ground that will be working in conjunction with you to make sure your trip goes just as smoothly as possible, and if anything comes up that you need support with, they're right there to help you. We have a 24-hour duty officer system so that if anywhere in the world you are, if a parent needs to be in touch with you, within literally a few minutes they can be on the phone with either you or their child if the situation presents itself that they need to talk to you in person. Then, of course, we offer a wide variety of insurance that will cover them for any situation. If they need medical attention while they're on the trip, insurance will cover that. Or if they need to cancel ahead of time because there's been an emergency medical situation, either with the passenger and their family, we have insurance that will address that. So keep all that in mind and maybe think about proactively sharing that with parents, especially if you sense that you know, they're a little reluctant or just a little apprehensive about letting their child go so far away for the first time.
Yeah. Yep, I agree that, you know, we do have the most extensive and wonderful support network out there, stateside and overseas. So parents should feel very comfortable, and you should feel very confident talking about ACIS. But, you know, on that same note, they can read it all in the registration booklet and online, but hearing it from you is going to really make it seem true, and you know, coming back to that, this is why I chose ACIS, this is why I'm traveling with ACIS, will help them really bring it home for them and make them understand that their child will be safe on this trip. So now we're going to do a few questions, and we are inching up to that hour mark, so I really want to get everyone's questions in. First, we have a question from someone who said that they have another teacher at their school leading a trip, so they are competing for students. And we hear this a lot. You know, one of the things I always tell people is one of the first things I would do is consider expanding the invite to travel on the trip to a group beyond your original group of invitees. So let's say you were just inviting the history students, maybe bring the French students along as translators. Get a colleague on board. If you were just doing juniors and seniors, consider expanding to the sophomores and freshmen. Even if it wasn't your original plan, and if this is your first trip, just getting this trip off the ground, it's so worth it. Once you get one trip under your belt, next year will be so much easier, and it will just continue to grow like that.
Yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to your colleagues in you know, a different discipline. You can do some cross-discipline workmanship here, and take, if you're a language teacher, travel with a history teacher, or maybe your art colleague would like to go on a trip with you, because so many of our trips do have a large art history and culture component to it. And I would also encourage you to think even outside your school. So think about colleagues or friends in a neighboring school or school district. You could both recruit for the same trip. So students from your rival high school or a high school in the same district could travel with you on that trip. We also have teachers that have colleagues that they've met along the way in other states and travel together. So don't rule that out when you're trying to expand your audience to recruit from.
Yeah, I agree. And, some teachers even take parents. And this is not for everyone, so I wouldn't say across the board that that's something I would do. But I think if I was struggling to get, enough to travel, that I would definitely reach out to parents and maybe include them as well. And maybe, again, friends, colleagues, anyone. While we're on this, I just wanted to mention, oftentimes if you have a competing trip at your school, maybe they're going with a budget company, and the other trip is less expensive. So I just wanted to address that a little bit and say, we did a webinar recently on ACIS versus the budget companies, the ACIS difference. And the gentleman who joined us was a group leader who's traveled with a budget company he did for a number of years, and now he travels with ACIS. And he relayed to me some really interesting information about why he travels with ACIS and the value. And I think that if you are in a situation like that, you really need to be able to speak to why you've chosen ACIS. And one of the things he mentioned was that just traveling to and from the city centers to the hotel every day, he added up throughout the trip 15 waking hours that they lost just in a bus, going back and forth. And that's a full waking day. That's a whole day of your trip that you've lost. It's not just about that. He also talked about eating Spurky and other things. But I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that maybe you need to address that with people if that's the situation, to really put it out there why ACIS is different and why the experience will be better overall and why it is such a good value.
Yeah, one of the things too, Liz, I just want to chime in with this story about tour managers and then highlighting, I think, the tour managers that ACIS has and how much of a treat they truly are. We have tour managers who've worked with us for 30-plus years, and they absolutely love it. And I can't tell you how many times when I've been overseas, I've seen students crying when they say goodbye to their tour managers because they just develop such a special connection. And I think that's a true experience that you get with ACIS.
Yeah, I agree. And, we have this culture of care, and I think all of you who are on this call, you know that, that when something goes wrong, we're there for you. And that's not always the case with other companies, or at least those are the stories we hear. It means a lot to parents, and it should mean a lot to the kids. That when you travel with us, we want you to have the best experience because we really, really care that you have the best experience. And they know that you care, but knowing that you've chosen a company that cares is really important too. So another question we have is about how much work this sounds like. And it does sound like a lot of work when you think about it all in one big, oh my gosh, I have to do social media and fundraise and have another meeting and RSVPs and send postcards. And when you think of it like that, it seems like quite a lot, but you can do it. Think about it like autopay. You don't have to do it all in one day. If you break this down into little things you do every few days or every couple of weeks, and again, get that student ambassador on board. One of the questions we had was that the student ambassador seems like it's a lot of work for them and not a very large reward. And you know what? That may be true, that it's not a huge scholarship, but it is a scholarship. And if they really want to travel, they need to make the trip happen. And if they want that experience, the trip won't happen without them making that group grow. Also, it's a great leadership opportunity. It's great for a college essay. I was the student ambassador. I made our school's trip to France happen. It was because of me, and I think that alone is a great accomplishment. Someone else asked about, they stated that they weren't a teacher, and how do they find a group or connect with a group. Whether you are a teacher or maybe a community leader, sometimes we have groups from social organizations, for example, like Girl Scouts traveling or Boy Scouts traveling. You can use a community group like that. I would say advertise through the newspaper, maybe through a library, put posters in the library, or set up a meeting in the library. Sometimes there's meetup groups online of people who are interested in travel in your local area. You could reach out that way. I know there's a group in my area of women who enjoy travel together, and one person sets up all the trips. So you can check Google groups or meetup groups. Do some research online to see if there is anything or any kind of organization in your area that you could connect with. Yeah, I think that.
I just want to circle back to what Liz was saying too about making an investment now. I mean, the big thing is you're starting a tradition, and so these first few years may be a little tougher, and it may seem like there's a lot that needs to be done to gain that momentum, but I think Liz mentioned it earlier, it's then the brothers and sisters of students that traveled years before that can't wait to go on Mrs. Reese's trip because they've heard so much about it. And so while it may seem like it's tough to do at the beginning, you're really helping yourself establish something more long-term. Mm-hmm. And it's a bit of the legwork to do at the beginning, but in the long run, when you've got kids knocking on your door, waiting to hand in slips and having lines, you know, to see if they can get a spot, it's all going to feel worth it. I really think so.
Exactly. Yes, and it will only get easier, and there'll be that expectation too. So once you have once you've had a few trips under your belt, that expectation will lead to large groups. And we want you to have large groups because it's wonderful, and you get wonderful benefits when you travel with your own group. Most importantly, you get that little bit of flexibility that comes with having a private tour. You can, with only 20 students for 2016, I think it's usually April 1st is our deadline. With 20 students registered, you get a private tour. And with that, you have a lot of flexibility for, of course, requests. And then all your free time, you can customize exactly what you'd like to do in your free time. And then for you personally, the rewards grow. Our global conferences are wonderful. Down below on this slide, you'll see Machu Picchu, and Ariana was on that trip this summer in Peru. And then there's those delightful people laughing and sampling beer somewhere, maybe in Vienna last year. But it's a lot of fun. It's a great, global conferences are a great opportunity to connect with ACIS and other teachers. And we love meeting you and being out there with you. So that you can become part of the ACIS family. Of course, you'll get a larger stipend, you get large group bonuses. So there are many benefits to you. And, you know, I know that you're all sort of in this situation right now where you're facing this challenge. And I really want to encourage you to at least take on one or two of the things we've talked about tonight, or maybe revisit something, one of your processes, whether it's for how you plan a meeting or what kind of follow-up you do. Just dig a little deeper right now, and it'll all pay off.
Yeah, Liz, also, I just wanted to highlight, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but always know that you've got so much support here at ACIS, too, for wanting to grow your group. Give us a call. We want to help you and talk you through it. If you want me to come and talk to students about traveling, you know I love that. That's my passion, and that's why we work here at ACIS. So we want to help you guys. And also, there are several ATAs out there, so our academic travel advisors that Liz mentioned earlier and that Liz manages so well. They are teachers that we've asked to help us with mentoring other teachers because they've done things so successfully. So never hesitate to reach out to us because we want to look into ways that we can help you continue to develop things too.
Yeah, and that really, Ariana is not just lightly saying, oh, we'll come. We will come. We will come to your meeting. We will come support you. If you want sample letters, different ideas, the ATAs, the Academic Travel Advisors, have sample meeting agendas. They have a ton of support materials that they'd be willing to share with you. Whether you have one specifically located right near you, or if you're interested in talking to a mentor, we're happy to connect you with someone. Just let us know. You know, if you don't ask, we can't force these people on you, but we would love for you to work with them, and they would love to work with you. So please let us know. I really want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I hope you found something valuable and that one nugget that maybe will make your group happen this year, because we want you to travel, and we want this not to be just one trip for you. We want you to have a travel program at your school so that you can build a legacy of travel at your school and make this part of your career and part of your life, because it's part of our lives, and it's really important. And we know that when you do take these students overseas, that it changes their lives forever. So thank you so much. I want to thank Lynn and Ariana. It was really great having both of your perspectives and your input tonight. And I want to thank Heidi for answering the many questions we received tonight. I think more than we've ever had in a webinar, which is a lot of fun. So thank you so much, everyone. And again, call first thing tomorrow, connect with your program consultant, and let's get rocking on making these trips happen, okay? All right, have a great night, everyone. Goodbye.